Kopano. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Girl Boss.
Thanks, Nonhle. Thanks for the opportunity.
I'm just gonna dive straight into it. Your novel, Coconut. Like, it's such an enjoyable read. Like, it's enjoyable, it's astonishing, and it's got deep underlying messages and powerful. And I feel like it's not just powerful at the time that you wrote it, but it's still powerful and has the same effect on the reader as it did in 2007. Sarah. So I'm going to start off by reading an excerpt from the book, which I feel like will really give us the essence of what the novel is about, really. So I'm reading from page 135 from Phoebe's chapter, and I'm just going to give a little insight of what's happening in the chapter. She's on her way to the Silver Spoon Coffee Cafe on a Sunday. No one's working, so it's not that busy, but the cafe is open. And we already know what she thinks about black people at the time, people of her own color. And so she's on the train ride, about to swap into a taxi. And I'll come back to her style of writing, but we are now in her thoughts, and in her thoughts, you're in her memory, not her conscious presence thoughts. So she's at school, primary school, and teachers asking her what they want to be when they grow up. And you feel, what do you want to be when you grow up? White, teacher Zola, I want to be white. You're so stupid, Figure. Don't you know you're going to be as black as dirt for the rest of your life? Tell her, Mrs. Zola, tell her she's going to be as black as dirt forever. Shut up, Ntombana, Mrs. Zola said. We can grow up and to be anything our hearts desire. But Figure, dear, you can't change the color of your skin. What I mean is that you can see, Figure, you stupid. Ntombana, if you don't keep quiet now, I'm going to have to send you out of my class. I will be white if I want to be white. I don't care what anybody thinks. But why would you want to do that, dear? Because it's better. What makes you think that, Figure? Everything. Like, can we just take that in? Like, can we just take that in and just engrave it into our subconscious? We'll come back to it. But with that thought, I want to ask you, what is a coconut?
That's such a difficult question. I don't know. I think I wrote the book at the time. I think I started writing it when I was 18. That long holiday between matric ending and varsity starting, and now it's like you have to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life and figure everything out. And yeah, I think Coconut was an exploration of identity. It was, at least in my time, it was a slur. So to be called a coconut was offensive. But it was also used to kind of keep each other in check, kind of manage each other's blackness. So if you were ambitious, if you liked to read, if you wanted to swim, if you listened to certain types of music, if it was slightly outside of the boundaries of what we considered blackness to be, then we called each other coconuts and were called coconuts. So I suppose the book is an exploration of what does it mean to be black, what does it mean to be white, how do we deal with privilege, and how do we kind of deal with white supremacy and kind of the sort of gold standard of beauty, of knowledge, of everything at the time, at least, being a sort of white standard of all of that.
Yeah. I just recently read the book, and I'm reading it in 2018, which marks just over 10 years since it was published. And we are now entering the 24th year. We've entered the 24th year of our democracy in South Africa. I still find it relevant, though. Like, it's still quite relevant compared to when you wrote it in 2007. Do you think it's relevant today still?
It surprises me that people are still reading. For me, I think I'm grateful that that it still has a resonance. I must say I write self-indulgently, but I write for my own sake. And so this was a book that I wrote that I didn't know would be published, and I wrote it because I myself was trying to figure and navigate all of this stuff. So that the fact that it still appeals to younger generation, I think, is something I'm very grateful for. But I think it does kind of speak to we've the sort of struggle as black women, as young black people, that we can kind of have sort of democratic kind of access to opportunity. That I think that kind of self-love and that sense of that being black is good and beautiful and right is something that is a long journey. That's something that we have to keep sort of working at.
Yeah, you mentioned that you write for your own self-indulgence, but obviously writing usually if you write a book, it'd be because it's either social commentary or you're trying to solve a problem through your writing, or that you're just raising awareness to a certain issue. What issues were you wrestling with that made you think of writing a book surrounded
Right.
within this topic of?
Yeah. So I mean, look, when I started, I didn't know there was I didn't even know I could write. I mean, there was no publishing deal. There wasn't a ready audience. I mean, I think at the time I was one of a handful of black children at a predominantly white school. Growing up in a world where having long straight hair, speaking a certain way, living a certain lifestyle was seen to be superior, and sort of trying to make sense of that. I also grew up in a home where my parents did challenge that a lot, so I was given difficult books to read at a very young age. So Animal Farm and I Write What I Like and Bluest Eye. And so I grew up in a household where what I was encountering at school was being challenged by the sort of narratives of the home, and so kind of trying to figure that out. And I think I journaled a lot, I kept a lot of diaries, and so all of that writing kind of led to what Coconut later became. But I couldn't have foreseen what would happen. That Coconut would be read and would be translated into a number of languages and would still be, continue to be read 10 years later. So that was just, I think I was just fortunate in that respect.
Sure, but I just want to know the issues cause Coconut, it's such a critically acclaimed novel. It tackled a lot of issues that we had in South Africa post-apartheid, racism, the adoption of new culture, loss of your identity. There's even a slight remark on sexual abuse, and how did you, what were you wrestling with, or was it just a random creation?
All of it. I think that's why all my writing, it takes me a very long time to write anything really, and it's messy, and it doesn't happen in a sort of systematic plan way. So I kind of don't set out that this is the social problem that I aim to solve with this book. It is very much deeply introspective. I believe that good writing is honest writing. It's the kind of stuff that you're embarrassed to share publicly, and that people can sense vulnerability, that when you are being vulnerable and when you're opening yourself up. And so I think I tend to do that with all of my writing. And so there's elements of all of that mess, the racial mess, the gender-based mess, the patriarchal mess, and it's kind of sort of in a very untidy way kind of permeates itself, and then eventually becomes a book. But I must say I didn't have sort of a clear plan at the outset of it.
Oh gosh, but then clearly for you to be able to write something, you have to have seen it, heard of it, or experienced it. And I want to know that with these topics, the themes, like the main things I just mentioned, at what age did you start making these observations? Was it in high school, post-high school?
A little bit over time. I think one of my favorite sayings, I can't remember who said it, was, I don't know what I think until I write. And I think that's true for me, that even sometimes reading some of the things I've written back, I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes I solve through writing for myself. And so there wasn't a moment in time. I think, so my parents, my mom is from Mamelodi, both my parents are from Mamelodi. We both didn't necessarily come from very wealthy families. My dad's mother was a domestic worker, and so they had their own struggles. And I think growing up with that backdrop, and then them kind of hustling their way through and sending us to private schools, and so kind of seeing that shift with some of my cousins or family members who remained in difficult circumstances, and me kind of moving up. But also just watching how privilege works, and watching how, kind of what we valued as Black people, speaking English well was kind of seen as a sign of being clever. And so as a child, observing all of that and trying to make sense of it, and then having opportunities to travel out of the country where people are not, the majority of people are speaking their own native language, in Germany and wherever else, and here we are trying to sort of appropriate another culture, another language, and being a young person, and just, it all seemed like quite a mad situation. And why are we in this? Why are we here? And what does it mean for the generations to come? What does it mean for our own children? There were some key moments. I remember certainly coming to the end of high school, and kind of thinking about this next chapter, going to varsity and the excitement of all of that, and sitting with my sister. I think there was a moment when I decided that I wanted it published. So there was a lot of my own writing, but then there was a particular night where I was chatting to my sister about all of it. And she encouraged me to send it to publishers, and it didn't get published. I got many rejections, but I eventually entered a competition at the time. It was the EU Literary Award, and it won that, and that's how it became published. So there were some moments that resulted in it being in the public domain, but in terms of the sort of grappling with all of it was a sort of long process.
So Jacana only found you after the award?
Yeah, so the award was sort of a Jacana initiative.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. And like taking everything into account, what was the book trying to say about that time? That specific time?
Yeah, I certainly am not. I didn't then, and I still don't now have any answers. I think another one of my favorite sort of saying is to live the questions, and I think the coconut was an exploration of the questions. And I think a book is at least for me, my writing is living, and then I think it's a sort of dance with the reader, and together we kind of sort of unpack things. And so there was no like wise message in the book. It was just an honest presentation of some difficult questions. And hoping that that's the beginning of a bigger conversation with society, with myself, with the reader.
Like in that scene, I was so waiting for that man to just give us that punch, that message, to be like, hey, the world of coconut, just be whoever you are, or whatever. But then the book ended and she just left. She left the guy in the train. She's just like, I'm not having any of this. Actually, I shouldn't have spoken to this Garuda's guy, And it's like, oh, okay. What do I think about? Like, there's so much to think about, and like it really just sparks conversation. Even if you don't have a conversation with anyone else, but even with just self, the message is in the conversation of talking about coconut. But Kopano, I love this book. Like, I genuinely love this book, and I love it because it talks about issues that I'm passionate about, and issues being specific to African culture, identity, and values. And I think it needs to be added as a critical book towards South Africa, specifically South African high schools, as part of the South African high school curriculum, English specifically, literature. But what did you think if your novel was accepted as part of the high school curriculum for South Africa?
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of private schools that have used it, but I mean, for it to be in the sort of mainstream education system, that would be a dream. It actually was shortlisted a year or two ago for I can't remember which secondary, it might have been high school. And in the end, it didn't get selected. But hopefully, when the next cycle comes and they're choosing Cedric's again, it'll be amazing.
Yeah. In the countries in Europe, I know it's translated into 4 different foreign languages. I know 2 being French and Italian. What are the other 2?
Oh, I think it's Svenska, which is Swedish, and I think Dutch, if I'm not mistaken.
Are they all for enjoyable reads, or are they incorporated into their education structure as well?
No, they all just sort of kind of in bookstores.
I really love your the French cover. That was my favorite one. But I'm about to get personal now. Was there a point in your life that you could have been identified as a coconut?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was saying to you, I don't know if I can say to your mom or Dr earlier, that we used it as a slur to others, and it was a slur to us as well. So there's obviously the coconut of being white, and white on the inside and black on the outside, right? Which is the traditional way. But there was also coconut used in a way to kind of keep ambition in check. So if you didn't want to do something that was not considered the normal thing that a black child would do, and you wanted to maybe read, or you were really interested, you really liked animals, like randomly, like that was your thing, then because that was a little bit outside of what we considered blackness to be, we used that to kind of pull people back, which I think in KwaZulu is also something that I was exploring as well. That, you know, we allow a white teenage girl to have all sorts of degree of complexity, but certainly in my time there was only one way to be black, you know, and that is also problematic. And so I think in another layer was, yes, the kind of, are you white or are you black, or do you accept, or are you proud of who you are, your sort of culture, but also what does it mean to be black and who decides, you know? Yeah, and just kind of shaking that a little bit, because I do think with our own insecurity, I mean, the same with being female. What does it mean to be a lady? You know, for the longest time, sort of historically, there was a way a lady behaved and the way a lady spoke and dressed. And I think, and maybe it's not so much with your generation, but certainly in my time, there was one way to be black.
Yeah.
And I did think that was problematic.
Yeah. So, like, but having said just that, before you said that, I was unsure of whether coconut had positive or negative connotations. In fact, in my head, I thought it was just an evolutionary process of sameness, you know. But with negative connotations?
I don't know. I mean, and I think I sort of hesitate to. Yeah, I mean, I think it's also still a legacy of the sort of colonial project where it's a binary thing. You either are, you're not, you know, and I think we are much more than whatever sort of descriptors or boxes that we can sort of put on people. Yeah, so I mean, I look now at the book, and I mean, I think certainly when we were young, to be called a coconut would be a diss, right? It would be a negative thing. But I think why I didn't want to put a definition to coconut, I named the book Coconut, was that the book itself is an exploration of what does it mean to be black, what does identity mean, why do we consider certain white ideals to be better than ours, and to unpack that a little bit rather than to say this is good or this is bad.
Yeah. Because in my mom's generation there was Model C. Is Model C the same as coconut? And do you think there will be another coconut but in a different word form in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they will. Yeah, I mean, I think when we are pushed into areas of discomfort by the next generation or by people who are brave enough to be different, we put a label on that to kind of put them in check and kind of rein them back, and I think that will continue to happen. I think Coconut is both about identity and what that means to you, and I think people and young people should be allowed to decide that for themselves, but I think also Coconut was also an appeal to celebrate who we are, not to be afraid and ashamed of that.
Yeah. You mentioned like it being like an exploration of black people and their aspirations toward whiteness. Would it be whiteness in terms of like how Felipe says that I want to be white, or would it be aspirations to success of whites in its different forms and aspects, like white lifestyle, white money, just would it be the aspirations of like the color thing more than anything?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, even the lifestyle and money thing, I mean, I guess people might argue if that in and of itself should be aspired to, right?
Yeah.
And I think and I think certainly Fikile, and who blames her as a child going in South Africa with our inequality, if you see, you know, it's only 1 + 1 is 2, that to be white means I have privilege and I have access, and to be black means poverty and sort of deprivation, and so it's understandable why a black child would see that as but I think we, and certainly the younger generation now, has an opportunity to kind of redefine what it means, what good things mean, you know, what excellence means, what success means. I mean, I think certainly in our time, when we kind of debunked all of this, we wanted to, think about to recreate everything and to start afresh. But actually, I think, at least for me, the older I get, I realize that a lot of like for example, the concept of Western medicine, you know, a lot of what we consider Western medicine has lots of its imhotep and lots of its sort of roots in kind of the Khoisan people, the sort of Egyptian cultures, and so there's a lot of mix, and maybe many cultures can claim things as their own, but I think we are more sort of mixed up and combined than we think. But I mean, I think it's a difficult question to answer, and I think every generation, every person has to determine that for themselves.
Yeah. With the idea of coconuts in mind, you have a daughter, and how will you raise her in respect to the whole idea and ideology of coconuts?
Yeah. I mean, I hope to not raise her in sort of that there's this right or this wrong, or there's this way and there's that way. I hope that she will be comfortable to explore and live the questions that I can't even predict or foresee. But that she will have a sense of pride in who she is, and that she won't doubt that, because I think certainly in my generation there was a lot of, that what we were needed to be fixed, and that there was a sort of initial wrong, and that you would work towards a right, but that she could start at that she is right, that who she is right, and start from there. But I mean, I think it's not. I mean, I think growing up is not easy. I think being a woman, we still live in a very patriarchal society, and so I hope that she is kind to herself and can be honest and open and make mistakes and learn from them. And so I don't have sort of a conclusion of where I want her to get to, but that she might be comfortable to just live with integrity and just live all the questions, because they're going to be many of them.
But Kopano, please tell us about your journey towards becoming a writer and being published at 21.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was very blessed. I didn't know I could write. I wrote, as I said, for myself. I was very fortunate to be published at a young age. And I think I was, and in some ways I was fortunate, but I think also the thing that can happen is when your first book does very well, that you then start to self-censor, because now there's an audience and you have to kind of meet expectations. And so I think Spilled Milk took a long time to come, and I've had to work very hard to kind of keep writing as if there is no audience, so that I don't censor, that I don't kind of hold back. But it's been good. I mean, I think I've been fortunate that writing is one of the things I do, and that there are many other things I'm interested in, and so I can, when I'm finding that I'm not in a creative space, I can focus on other things, and that kind of rejuvenates my writing as well. And so I mean, I think it's been an interesting journey. I think I've probably not been as disciplined as I could have been. I do it very self-indulgently, and I've been fortunate that my readers have been very kind and patient with me, and have received my work well.
And when you wrote this book at 21, had it published at 21 rather, and you were studying medicine at the University of Cape Town. First of all, how do you juggle? Like, I'm a student right now, and honestly, I can't juggle my life and an introduction to an essay.
Right.
Like, how were you able to write a whole book and you're studying medicine? Like,
I mean, I enjoy it. I really do. It was a break for me. I think med school was tough. It was tough. I mean, I think the pressures are hard. Being away from home is difficult, and university itself is its whole own sort of whirlwind of stuff. So writing was my quiet space. It was, for me, it was kind of where I refreshed and rejuvenated myself. And I'm quite a spiritual person. I've always found that it's through writing that I feel connected to God, and so it was kind of my time. So I did it for myself, and so it wasn't something that I had to make time for. It was something that I did to cope.
And for the young aspiring writers out there, how did you go about deciding what it is exactly that you want to write about?
I mean, I think this is from Roald Dahl, if I'm not mistaken, but to just like vomit on empty pages, like not to think about it, to just pour it out and let it be messy and untidy. And I do a lot of that. I mean, period pain was a combination of all sorts of bits and pieces of paper and voice notes and stuff on my phone over a long period of time. And then when it's ready and it comes together, I think and then that's when the hard work starts, because now you have to kind of pull it together to something coherent. But yeah, to keep pushing. I mean, I think even for myself, I was first only published locally. There was a couple of small international deals, and with Period Pain, there were many more that came in a short amount of time. So I think with anything, to kind of keep pushing at it, to keep believing in yourself, to trust your voice as well. I think it's easy to try and sort of imitate a style of another writer that one admires, but to trust your own voice, that your own unique contribution, and yeah, to just keep pushing at it.
On style, like spectacular. Like at first I was confused. Like, what's happening? What's happening? And I was like, wait, this is like so magnificent because it's presence, and in the form of the fonts you can see its presence, and then there's thoughts, which is either conscious present thoughts or thoughts of memory. And it's just like, oh, this is amazing. Why it's like, where did you get that style from?
Oh, I don't know. Thank you, firstly, but I have absolutely no idea. Yeah, I mean, and the Spilt Milk is different and Period Pain is different. I think that was just the voice of that time. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to answer. So, I mean, I do read a lot when I'm writing, and it's funny because it's reading good work that gives me permission to trust my own style. But I mean, I think it's just kind of playing around and trying, and I think I've been fortunate that it's appealed to people, and I think with everything you kind of, there's some things that people like and others don't like, and I think Spilt Milk did better outside of the country than it did locally, and that's okay, because I think you have to first, as an artist of any sort, kind of do it because you love it and you believe in it firstly, and whether it meets people or doesn't is okay. You need to be okay with that.
You mentioned the gap between coconut and split milk, being a long gap. I just want to know what inspires you, still continues to inspire you to keep writing.
Because I do it to work through my own kind of. So I mean, Spilt Milk was my own disappointment with kind of the sort of South African dream that was kind of deferred, the kind of broken rainbow, and me trying to understand that, like, kind of what went wrong and what happened and what is happening. And so Spilt Milk was me working through that. I think Period Pain was again a lot of the sort of patriarchal stuff, trying to understand that, trying to make sense of that. So I mean, I keep writing because I need to write for my own mental health. so regardless of whether another book comes out of it or not, it's a journey that I do for myself primarily.
The books don't continue, because I'm going to ask you, for us who are new fans to Coconut, the books are not a continuation, but what can we look forward to?
So they're not a continuation, but I heard Zexenda speak, I think it was earlier in this year, either last year, and he said something, I think he was quoting someone, and it was a realization for me as well, and he said, I think I'm paraphrasing, but he said, if you write honestly, you can't help but put a piece of yourself, and that almost all books are kind of one big story. And so when I look back, I do see links, but they're not intentional links between books. So Spilt Milk, I mean, I think Spilt Milk is kind of a social commentary on the sort of post-Rainbow Nation high, and also I think knowledge as well. Who creates knowledge? Are we, I think I struggled particularly at varsity, and I think it happened again with the sort of Flawless movement, that it was almost that we were just sort of receiving kind of a bigger body of knowledge, or systems or products or whatever, and not recognizing ourselves as creators of thought and knowledge. And I think Spilt Milk is an attempt at challenging that a little bit. And Period Pain is about pain. It's about I think it's about being female. It's about so Period Pain was sparked, I think the seed of it, and I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I remember being a medical student, and rotating through obstetrics and gynecology and sitting in on a consultation with a woman in Cape Town, and she had severe bleeding. And she was telling the doctor, and I was just a student sitting in, and she spoke about her vagina as her scamter, which is her shame. And it stuck with me. I was just like, why is this your shame? Right? And why so much of women and their bodies and how our bodies are used is considered shame. And so I think that was the seed, and it never really kind of percolated to my consciousness. And then I worked for some time a little bit in a clinic where we saw lots of rape patients or people who had been raped, and then also just the health system. And I think so period pain is kind of a lot of the sort of pain of the period of South Africa, but kind of told through a woman's body. So I mean it's very messy as these things are. But I think I enjoyed it. Was a very difficult book to write, but I enjoyed it. I think it was good for me as well to kind of deal with my own sort of trauma of being in the health system
just a quick thing that I think everyone would want to know is, how do you go about name choosing?
So when as I said, I journal a lot and I keep voice notes and I write everywhere and anywhere. And so the name comes to me, and then I know that it will be a book. Okay. So I don't.
It just comes?
It just comes.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's just like an energy from the universe, like this is what's supposed to be.
So then,
just back on coconut, on my last question on that is, do you think that the beauty standard of women comes from the media that they consume? Sure, yes, Feel magazine, gloss. But do you think that it's still the case today, and is it the same kind of beauty definition as Olefile and File's definition?
Yeah, I think it's changing so much, and I think it's very much thanks to yourselves, this generation. I think people like your mom and others who are really challenging that and creating products and spaces like Girl Boss, where there are many beautiful forms of beauty that are not the traditional Western model. I think in my time, we had what were all those magazines? I can't even remember what they were called. But they were just one way. You could not see yourself in the media at all. And certainly on TV, I mean, even with my own daughter, I still struggle. But I think that's changing, and I think it's thanks to this generation that are really challenging, that are creating content, that are creating spaces for Black girls to be all kinds of beautiful. And that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I just remembered now, the other day I typed on Google Images, I went in and typed, please do it, Rita, beautiful woman. And I think only after you scroll 20 images, you see a singular Black person,
Really?
but they all are the opposite race.
Oh, really?
So
Sure.
I think it's really important to see ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Representation.
Right.
Really important.
Absolutely.
And then, Kopano, you are the girl boss epitome. You have three international critical acclaimed novels. You are a medical doctor and a PhD doctor. What would you say to younger girls out there on getting things done?
Sure. Well, thanks for that, Nonhle. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I mean, I think fear stands in. I think it's I don't know, her name is just escaped my mind. The COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, who says in one of her books, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" And I think that's a check that because I think fear is a lot of the reason why we hold back. We've got great ideas. We are beautiful. We are bright. We are creative. But it's that self-doubt. We talk ourselves out of our own greatness. So don't be afraid. I think we've only got this sort of 80 odd years on this earth, and so make it worth it, make it worthwhile, make it memorable for yourself and for others. And I think it's encouraging that when you see young girls, young women like yourselves, or Nonhle, others, it gives the rest of us permission to kind of go and do our own thing. So I think don't even see it as a selfish pursuit, that your own sort of brilliance allows others to be brilliant as well.
At the end of it all, but just get it done. Get over it. Get over the fear. Get it done. I guess that's some very useful advice for anyone, and we look forward to the next book, which I definitely know is coming. The message is coming. It's coming. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Kopano.
Nonhle. Thank you so much for having me.